things of nature, things of that 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 nature.
There's that good old Sam Pittman again. I know people love seeing that on this Sunday morning. What's going on, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis here with Inside Arkansas, coming to you for our postgame accountability session after Arkansas's, I don't know, insert whatever descriptor you want, incredible win over Tennessee last night. Man, still riding high after that win for the Razorbacks. Just an incredible performance, feel-good game. Everybody's happy. But, you know, we stick to the script, just like Arkansas stuck to the script to get this this upset and pull this thing off. We stick to the script too around here. So every week before the game, we do our pregame show, if you will, and we talk about some musts for Arkansas to get a win. We challenge some key Razorbacks. We make some bold predictions, and then the aftermath, we run it back and we hold ourselves accountable for what we've done. And I tell you what, we're a little bit all over the place in this game. We almost absolutely nailed some things. The difference was Arkansas won the game, and we both thought they were going to lose. Now, I don't think that was crazy by any means, Andrew. I think most people probably thought that was going to be the case. But if we're going to call this an accountability session, we might as well own up to it. Predicted Arkansas to lose this game. They won. And you know what? I will never let the feel good of a victory like that be overshadowed by wanting to be right on some predictions. So I'll take it. I'll allow it. How do you feel, man?
100%. I feel great. And, you know, frankly, guys, you know, everyone last night when they were watching the game could kind of feel the script being written. And it was one that for a while looked familiar. When Arkansas gave up the lead and eventually fell down 14-3, that was kind of the script that we saw of Arkansas was going to come out and, you know, keep it ugly early, give themselves a chance. You even called them winning at halftime, which we'll get to later. And then it seemed like, okay, they had kind of run into it. They're running out of gas, running out of steam here. And that's kind of was our expected stepping off point for the Arkansas Razorbacks. We were kind of like, all right, this makes sense. And they did not want to live with that script. And credit to them, man. They fought back, and man, it was such an impressive win. And you're absolutely right. I'm definitely not going to I'm not going to lose any sleep over not predicting that win to happen. And as we'll talk about the game in a little bit further detail, I do want to like kind of pat us on the back because I feel like we saw a lot of things that had a chance to go in Arkansas's favor, but we just couldn't quite commit to Arkansas winning the game outright, because it just seemed like this was the type of game that Arkansas would have a chance to win but not win. And credit to them for getting it done, man. Like, absolutely. And I look forward to breaking it down into further detail. Yeah,
no doubt about it. I think the main thing that was maybe holding us back from going there, it wasn't that it didn't make sense. And we talked about it in the pregame show. It's like, all right, you know, maybe Tennessee, you know, have they been challenged as much as it feels like they have, or as much as we think they have with Oklahoma, NC State, not as good as you thought they were. Yeah, you know, Arkansas is they're a couple snaps away from being 5-0, what it would have been at the time. But it was the trajectory, right? Like, have another one score loss, and your quarterback's having confidence issues, and you're just wondering, man, is this thing headed in the wrong direction? But that's the beauty of the bipolarness. That's the Arkansas Razorbacks, man. They weren't worried about none of that. Like you said, they weren't having it. And just an incredible performance, man. And the storming of the field and the happiness. I was listening to Sam Pittman's press conference. You know how they got the area there where some fans can kind of check it out and watch. And he gives a shout out to the fans, and the fans start cheering, and he gives them a nod. It just it was a feel good game for Arkansas, no doubt. But how did they do it? And so, Andrew, before the game, we listed out just some non-negotiables, some things that just like must happen for Arkansas to get it done. And in a lot of ways, like we said, they kind of stuck to that script and got it done. And the first thing I had was they just had to have a stalemate coming out of the start, out of the gates. You need to stalemate. It didn't have to be the fast start where you jump on them early and come up with a score or two. Nothing crazy like that. But Tennessee had been so overwhelming against their opponents in the beginning of games. Whatever it was, 149-6 in the first half, 78-3 in the first quarter. It was ridiculous. And we know that Arkansas despite what's just been, a strong crowd support, and last night was incredible, sometimes they come out flat at home, and you had to avoid those things. And buddy, I think they I think they follow that to a T with the way this game opened up. I mean, it's 3-0 at halftime, so you'll take that. And then just the opening drive there for Arkansas, 16 plays, you take 9 minutes off of the clock, you put points on the board, and then the defense comes out, boom, 3 and out, and you get them right off the field. That is exactly what we were talking about Arkansas needing to do. It was the same thing that Vanderbilt did to Alabama, quite frankly. You never let that offense get into a rhythm. You sustained some drives. You made them uncomfortable, put them in positions they hadn't been in before. So I'm pleased with that part of the process there for Arkansas. It's good stuff.
Yeah, when it was happening in the moment and Arkansas came away with 3 points on that opening drive, I think there were probably a lot of people that were a little bit disappointed. And I know a lot of people were probably yelling at their TV over the throw that Talon made to Jordan Anthony, which had him down at the 1 yard line or whatever it was. And he had the false start that backed you up too. That was a little bit unfortunate. You had some folks that thought that Arkansas scored on that one play. But, it felt a little bit like it's hard to complain about getting 3 on your opening drive, having a lead against Tennessee, which was the first time they had faced a deficit all season long after that opening drive. And it was hard. I didn't know how to feel about it. And I'm sure there's a lot of Hog fans who felt the same way of like, oh, did they kind of maybe miss the opportunity? And I think you even tweeted out, you got to come away with 7 there. Like, that's got to be a touchdown. And I agree. But in hindsight, with the way the game played out, we can acknowledge that it at least was the perfect tone setter, at least for the drive. I mean, it was 9.5 minutes. I mean, the first quarter was damn near over by the time Tennessee touched the ball. And then they gave it right back to Arkansas, and Arkansas was able to kind of keep that momentum. But the long, lengthy keep away drive combined with getting a quick stop defensively really set that tone of like, hey, this game is going to be harder than you thought. And you've got a lot of pressure on you because we might just keep that ball for the entire quarter if we need. And so you're going to have to make the most of your opportunities. And I think Tennessee felt that pressure early, and it took them a while to settle into what the game was. Arkansas was very prepared for what that game was, a yucky, muck it up, defensive slugfest a little bit. And Tennessee, it took them a while to realize what kind of game they were in and how to adapt to it. Whereas Arkansas, from the get-go, was very physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage. It's not like their offensive line was just moving them back and dominating, but they were getting some gains on the ground, committing to that Jaquinton Jackson run game, which you called for. And I thought Arkansas just did a really good job, and it wasn't pretty. And the offensive numbers for Arkansas are good, especially through the air. Not like going to blow you away, but I thought they did a really good job of setting that tone early, which we felt like they had to do.
Yeah, 100%, man. And you said this first, and then I've just been saying it like every other sentence ever since because I liked it. But you got to take them out to the deep end, man. You had to drag them out into those deep waters, and it's just true. And what we mean by that is putting Tennessee in a position that they're uncomfortable with, that they haven't been in before. Because when you're outscoring your opponents 52-7 every game, how do you respond to real adversity? And real adversity isn't, oh, Oklahoma scored a couple touchdowns late in the fourth quarter to make a game that wasn't close look closer than it was. It's really put them in a dogfight. They hadn't seen it yet. And the good side of the double-edged sword, I guess, of playing in all these one-score games is, even though you lose your share of them, if you're Sam Pittman, which he said that in the press conference afterwards, he was like, hey, by the way, we won a 1-score game. I hope you guys are right about that, which was awesome. But you've done this, right? You've been there. This isn't new to you. This isn't Greek. This isn't a foreign language. And Arkansas, quite frankly, looked like the team that was better equipped to handle it. And Tennessee made some mistakes, and that freshman looked like a redshirt freshman making his 6th start. So that was a very positive development. And part of the process of getting there, Andrew, and this is something that you pointed out right away, was you can't let these dudes run wild on you. I mean, they're rushing for nearly 300 yards per game, and it's not a situation where you have to just completely bottle up the rushing attack, but you got to fortify the front enough and do a good enough job to where you're forcing that young quarterback to be the one to beat you. And buddy, he did not. And he didn't have a very good game. 16-28, 156 yards passing, and just some questionable at best decision-making down the stretch, including the last play of the game.
Yeah, I thought it was huge. I mean, 28 pass attempts, that ties a season high for Nico, which he had in the opener against Chattanooga. And I believe he was 23 of 28 in that game.
Ties a season high, huh? Wow.
Ties a season high, and which is a career high for him, pass attempts. And that was something we talked about a lot coming into the game. They hadn't been in games. You know, Arkansas, for better or for worse, had been in these games where they had just said, hey, Taylor Green, we need you to throw 43 times. And he had mixed results in those games. Nico had never been in a position where it was like, hey, you've got to win this game for us. And if you look at the numbers for Tennessee's rushing, credit to Dylan Sampson, by the way, who I'm sure, I guess, now might be leading the SEC in rushing, or he's definitely up there. He had 140 yards and 2 touchdowns on 22 carries. He had the 53-yard run, which skews this number a little bit, but even without it, he had like 80, 90 yards, like a really solid day on the ground. He had to work for every yard he got. And again, he had the big one, which set up their touchdown drive. And so on the stats, you may look at it like, oh, Arkansas really didn't hold them too much on the ground. But I felt like that tone was kind of set throughout the game where Tennessee was going to have to work for every yard they got. And they weren't just able to gash Arkansas. I mean, this is a team that they had the best rushing attack in the country. They had the best offense in the country. Things had typically come easy for this Tennessee offense. And Arkansas provided just enough resistance. And if you're in, I know I hate when people do this to try and like really sell a point where they're like, we'll just take away the 3 biggest plays in the game. But aside from that 53-yard run that was not a touchdown, Tennessee, I mean, it was just not smooth sailing offensively, especially on the ground. And I think down the stretch, it became clear like, hey, Arkansas is going to shoot these gaps. They're going to take risks. And that's what happened on that long run is they kind of took a risk and then he found the hole that wasn't there. But I think that Arkansas really put that pressure on them and made Tennessee realize they were going to have to get creative offensively, and Nico was going to have to be the guy that could string together drives. Curtis, Arkansas had the better quarterback in this game. Like, let's just be honest. And Nico's a super talented kid. Like, he's going to go on. He's going to put up crazy numbers this year. He might win the Heisman next year. But in this game, in this environment, he was not quite ready for this challenge. And Arkansas was the first team that was able to put Tennessee in a position to where they had to find this out.
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned Taylor Green being the better quarterback in this game. That's a perfect segue because that was the next kind of must that I had was, listen, man, Taylor Green, you got to have good Taylor, good Green. That's what you need. And that doesn't mean he has to be Superman on every single play. It doesn't mean he has to have 500 total yards of offense or whatever he had at Oklahoma State, but it's just a confident quarterback back there, somebody who is poised, running the offense, in command. And I think he was absolutely that. And he didn't turn the football over, which is a beautiful thing. And I know we're going to talk way more in depth, I imagine, on Taylor Green after we record this and put it out. And then we start doing our report card, which is coming soon, which I know we're both really looking forward to. Yeah. But my goodness, man, 19 of 27, 266 yards. He completed 70% of his passes against one of the best pass defenses in the country, with the best defensive line in the country, breathing down his neck the entire game. Did he miss some throws? Yeah, you mentioned the Jordan Anthony one. Absolutely. Just didn't see Tesla streaking down the field wide open for what would have absolutely been a touchdown. And he had a perfectly placed ball that was dropped that would have been a touchdown from Satania there. But, that's just going to happen. You're not going to play perfect. And you had to keep into perspective the type of team you were playing, the defense you were playing, the moment that you were going up against. He was dropping some seeds in there, man. And I thought his decision-making was better. Sure, there were some things there where maybe he pulled when he shouldn't have, whatever, and just some things he's got to clean up. But he looked like a leader. He looked like an SEC quarterback in this game. And frankly, I wrote it at the top of my notes at the time, and I still have it. And I said Arkansas would have won this game if Taylor Green didn't get hurt, because I thought that's where it was headed at the time. And I'm glad I scratched that out and didn't say it on our post-game show. But that's how strongly I felt about what Taylor Green was doing out there. You got the good version of him, and he played clean, turnover-free football. And to take us to the last must, or the non-negotiable that we had, which you mentioned a little bit earlier, like you can't get into a shootout with these guys, which they didn't. They mucked it up, made it ugly. Well done. And then also you said no funny business. And I like that a lot, which was, hey, you can't be doing the turnovers every other possession thing. You can't have all the self-inflicted wounds, the silliness that Arkansas does. And were there missed opportunities? Absolutely, man, especially in the first half of this football game. But part of that is you're just playing a really damn good team. And that's what people have to keep in mind. You were playing a really good team. So, yeah, did you have a couple turnovers on downs there? You sure did. You would have liked to execute that better. still one of the best defenses in the country that you're dealing with, and they're going to get your number, you know, on a fair amount of occasions there. So playing a cleaner game and just not looking, gosh, man, just dysfunctional like they have out there sometimes, undisciplined like they have it sometimes. They tried, they flirted with it. They had the couple personal fouls on one possession there, and there were moments where you're thinking, oh gosh, here we go. But they overcame it, man, and I think they successfully avoided the funny business. What say you?
They definitely avoided the funny business. And you mentioned Talon not having to be Superman or not being Superman. And I think that's what made this so impressive, because I feel like there's been games this year where Talon's been that guy where if you take away the 65-yard touchdown or you take away the 2 or 3 huge plays, he really wasn't able to do much, you know, between the 20s and consistently. But Talon, man, it felt like he consistently made the right decisions. Arkansas had a few chunk plays here and there, but it wasn't like they were just guys streaking wide open all day and getting behind the defense and all these massive plays to open it up. It was just simply offensive line giving him enough time, receivers getting open, Andrew Armstrong being that receiver a lot of the time, and him making the right play. And, you know, you mentioned the no turnovers. There's something to be said about just living to fight another day and just punting the football away, or in Arkansas's case, getting a turnover on downs at the 32 or whatever it was. But Arkansas didn't. That's how you get in trouble against teams like Tennessee. That's how you give them a door open to escape the dogfight. When you give them the short field, when you give them the quick, the pick six, the fumble, and now you got the ball at the 23, like moments like that we've seen every single week this season, or leading up to this game, every single game, Arkansas had those turnovers that set their opponent up with prime opportunities and kind of narrowed the gap between the two teams. Arkansas forced Tennessee to earn everything that they got, which started with Arkansas's offense not doing anything stupid and kind of controlling the game, controlling the time possession, and also just being able to score when you have a chance to score, punt when you need to punt, and just not doing anything stupid, like you said. And so, yeah, I think both. I mean, Talon clearly answered the challenge. I guess he was our pregame challenge, and he was kind of the non-negotiable as well.
Yeah, we double dipped on Talon Green, as we should have.
Right. Well, I mean, we need a double dip so we have beautiful segues, and that's what we've got going on right here. Because I would say Talon Green, like, it's weird because when I said accept the challenge, frankly, Curtis, I know I just referenced those big plays that were like, oh, you didn't have to make all those. When we challenged Talon, that was kind of what I had in my brain, where I was like, he's going to have to be Houdini a little bit. He's going to have to pull the rabbit out of the hat and do something crazy. And he really didn't do that. Credit to him for not listening to me, staying composed, staying within himself. And just, you know, we talked about getting his swagger back. Yeah. I thought Talon Green had some swagger in this game. And there were multiple throws in particular where I'm like, you don't make that throw unless you are a confident, collected, know what you're doing, know where you're going with the football. I think of the one that he slipped in over the linebacker and between the safety to Satania in the middle of the field. You know, wasn't like a pinpoint throw or anything, but what he did is he stepped right into it. He knew exactly where he was going with the football, and he laid it in beautifully where he needed to for his guy to make a play and the defenders not to do it. I thought he was a lot more prepared coming into this game, and he looked a lot more confident, and he didn't look rattled like he did last week. I thought this was a huge step forward for Talon Green and a good statement for him to make, to kind of say, hey, guys, just relax. It's kind of crazy that we're saying this in a game where his backup had the game-winning touchdown. He went ahead and put that quarterback debate to bed. You know, we'll see what his health is like moving forward, but I think for now, Hog fans probably feel a little bit better about their QB1 than they did 24 hours ago.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned the health there. It sounds like he's got an MCL injury to that knee.
Oh, he's got an MCL.
He does have an MCL. Well, hopefully he still has an MCL and it's not completely gone. That was a scary moment, man. And debate could be had as to whether or not that was a dirty hit, but certainly got hit low, hyperextended. That's just not something that you ever want to see with your quarterback. And he wasn't able to finish the game. I'm somewhat encouraged that he was at least attempted to come back out there, even though it didn't go well. And you knew right away, as soon as he started to try to get outside the pocket, like, this is probably he's not going to finish this game. In fact, you texted me before they even took him out and you said, he's not finishing this game.
Right as I sent that text, I saw him walking away and I was like, oh, well, of course he's not going to finish the game. But like, I was thinking, this doesn't look great.
The beauty of it is they do have a bye week. So you got 2 weeks to get him healed up and healthy before LSU comes to town. And hopefully that's all it takes. And so we'll probably, to be perfectly honest with you and things of that nature, we probably won't really know until closer to the game. Like I have a hard time believing that we're going to hear much. We might not even talk to Sam Pittman this week, honestly. Sometimes they give you a midweek press conference during the bye week. Sometimes they don't at all. So jury's out. We'll see with Taylon Green, but hopefully he avoided anything too serious there. And I think maybe he did. Other challenges, we did the thing again where it was, hey, somebody not named Andrew Armstrong to catch the football. Well, first of all, Andrew Armstrong is incredible. And honestly, if they just wanted to throw it to him 30 times a game, I'd be okay with that. My goodness, 9 receptions, 132 yards. But you had a very specific challenge to Isaiah Satania, who, if you look at the stats, he definitely accepted it. But boy, it could have been a lot better, couldn't it? That stat line could have been real sexy.
It could have been real sexy, which would have been a definitive accepting of the challenge. I still am going to give it to him because he had 5 grabs and they all were big grabs. And he was making some big plays, just moving the chains. I believe a couple of them came on huge third downs. And I think the thing that I like about it is we always talk about how Taylon's connection with Tyrone Broden is a little bit weird and sometimes things look off. He looks very confident and very comfortable throwing the ball at Isaiah Satania. Satania also is, we talk about his acrobatic nature and his ability to kind of adjust and make those catches on balls that might not be perfectly on target. I think Taylon likes that. Even though Isaiah Satania is not the biggest target, I think he knows, hey, this guy can make grabs in difficult situations. Now, maybe I'll throw it to him in the end zone and he might not catch it, which, by the way, I think the defender kind of got in the way. Like, I think it was just one of those things. And it also would have been like the play of the year. Like, that would have been not play of the year, but like play of the day. Like, Sports Center would have been going crazy if Taylon had completed that pass.
ABC definitely thought he caught it. So
I mean, yeah, Chris Fowler still is like, oh wow. But no, yeah, I'm gonna consider this an accepted challenge. I'm glad I picked the right number 2 receiver. Because Tesla, it was not a big day for Tesla. He was not super involved in the action. Tyrone Broden did have the 1 reception for 22 yards, but I think we've kind of established at this point that Satania is that number 2 guy. He's the most consistent target, and he has just a good mix of skill sets where he's going to make his plays down the field. He's going to have the jet sweeps. He can get open over the middle on 3rd and 5. Like, he just has a lot of answers that this offense needs, and his stability that he's bringing to the passing game, which you kind of saw show up in this game, is huge. And I feel like now at this point, it's no longer 1.5 receivers for Arkansas. They've got 2, and I would argue they have 2.5 because Tesla, whenever he shows up, is quite the force as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Also on the offensive side of the ball, I challenged Bobby Patrino to get Jaquindon Jackson 20 touches in this game. And we even said at the time that it's not going to be, 20 touches for 240 yards or anything crazy like that, because Tennessee's really, really good defensively, especially against the run. Coming into the game, they were only allowing 50 yards per game on the ground, which is absolutely ridiculous. But Jaquindon Jackson's such a big part of what you're doing, and just establishing the run, establishing that threat was going to be so important in this game. So you weren't in a position where Taylon Green would have to go out there and throw 40 times and obvious passing downs, whatever. Yeah, challenge accepted. Well done, Bobby Patrino. Jaquindon Jackson, 20 carries for 57 yards and touchdown this game. He also added a couple receptions for 33 yards. So what is the math?
Third down.
Yeah, man.
That's a 1 yard line. Whew.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. You see 20 for 57, 2.9 yards per carry, and you go, But hey, it was still 7 yards more than Tennessee's allowing as a team per game in the course of the season. But man, he earned every single one of those. And so many times he was hit at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, and he just refuses to fall backwards. He just won't do it. And so he's always going to get you a yard or 2 yards. Whatever you think the run is good for, he's going to get you an extra one. And that's just the type of running back that he is. And it sets the tone, and it's physical, and it wears on you because he grinds on you the entire game. And he's just not a dude that you want to tackle. It doesn't matter if he was in the NFL right now, he would not be a dude that people wanted to tackle. And eventually you just keep, we use the expression of the miner who just keeps digging and digging and digging. And eventually you break through and you find the diamond. And it wasn't him that broke through, although he got the touchdown run, but it softened that thing up over the course of the game. Then Braylon Russell's picking up chunk plays, a little bit later on. But Jackson doing the things that he was doing, that's part of the reason why you can have 9-minute drives and continue to move the sticks and keep your defense off the field so they're not gaslit was really impressed with it. So great job by Bobby Patrino getting him involved, and just a nice job by Jackson. I'm sure he would have loved to have 150 yards or whatever rushing, but I guarantee you he's happy with the win, and hopefully he's okay as well, because we know that he comes out of games often with some injuries. It looked like that shoulder was bugging him, but
this
for him
he
not
stayed out for a little bit.
Yeah, for him not to be in at the very end of that game tells me that he's feeling it. And if anybody ever needed a bye week, it's probably him, man.
Yeah, it was a very deceptive, and I even texted you this halfway through the game. I was like, Jinan Statline is a little deceptive because he's been running a lot harder than it seems. And, like we said, even though it's less than 3 yards a carry on the ground for him on paper, we felt like that was an effective method for Arkansas to stick with it and to set that tone of that physicality, keep these drives going, keep that clock running, keep the ball in your hands. And it was, Tennessee did a good job of just kind of flooding it and getting some tackles behind the line of scrimmage. But it felt like anytime he was able to get one, like you said, he would end up with 3 or 4. Anytime he was able to get ahead of steam and really hit that hole, he would get some yardage and get some positivity. And I mean, he was thumping those boys. He and Braylon Russell, man, those were some big backs. That's 500 pounds worth of running back that you got to account for right there. Man, that's probably not that fun. And I think also it's just worth noting the defense that they're going up against. And again, which is why the numbers aren't as beautiful as they are. But I think it says a lot. And it was impressive that Patrino trusted the offense and just was going to willing to stick with it, which we could argue he didn't do last week. And that, the Jackson was able to get what he was able to get against that front. But I could not be more impressed. I don't want to say more impressed with like the Arkansas offense overall, but I thought it was a really effective game plan. And I feel like Bobby Patrino did a better job in this game than the final score may indicate. Like you see 19-14, and obviously everyone's going to say Travis Williams, which they should. Travis Williams is a legend. I mean, he's a legend in the making. Like that dude absolutely dominated this matchup, and that's impressive. But I feel like Bobby Patrino, I don't want it to get overlooked that like I thought he made the right the right calls in the right situations, and he called the right game for Arkansas to win this one. And it kind of put this offense in a good position to succeed. And Curtis, when you're handing the ball off 20 times to Jinan Jackson, you're not throwing interceptions. You're not getting sacked. You're not doing stupid stuff. No funny business. Jinan Jackson is allergic to funny business unless you try and pitch him the ball right next to him.
That's right. Exactly. That's 100% right, man. A couple more challenges that we had. We both did kind of a combination challenge, but for both of us, it included Addison Nichols. And so I guess we could touch on him first. Here's the thing with Addison Nichols, man. I was worried that he was going to get very much overwhelmed in this game because one of the things Sam Pittman said early on was how they just like Tennessee earlier in the week. He says Tennessee just they collapse that pocket from the front, like right up the middle is where they can really blow that thing up. And so then I'm looking right at the middle and I'm saying, oh, Addison Nichols, who was probably doing a lot last year of, hey, I'm on the second team offense and I'm practicing against our first team defense at Tennessee, and it probably didn't go very well. And so I imagine Tennessee's defensive front had a lot of confidence going into this game, and it wasn't perfect. And the offensive line wasn't perfect, and the PFF grades kind of reflect that, but he held up and he held his own. And so I give him credit for that. The snap thing, it's
an issue.
It's an issue. It just is. And a lot of people were just irate at me on Twitter. My mentions were crazy on Twitter of people saying it's not on the center when Singleton came into the game. No, it is on the center. It absolutely is. And I'll give you one, okay, that's off the mark or whatever, but you got to be able to make that adjustment, dude. It's not like he's never snapped to Malachi Singleton before, and everybody's different. It's like cadences are different, whatever. You have to be able to make that adjustment if you're the starting center. If it's okay, so Taylor Green is 6'6" and Malachi Singleton is 6 feet tall. I get it. There's a difference there. You have to be able to make the adjustment. When this happens to other teams, when they have to bring in their backup quarterback, it's not like, oh shit, we better bring in our backup center too, just that way the snaps are on time. No, you figure it out. And that's just it was a problem there. And some of them on Singleton just bobbling them a little bit. But Nichols is also putting them back there like 115 miles per hour. But it's very apparent, and Sam Pittman's mentioned it, when Nichols is pulling left, when he is going left, he snaps that thing off the mark to the right over and over and over and over again. maybe to the point where I guess Singleton should expect it. I don't know, but it was an issue, and I think it cost him a touchdown there on the goal line when Singleton had to come into the game when Taylor got hurt. Yeah,
it's crazy that it didn't end up costing them just because of how good this Arkansas defense played. But yeah, I think it's been a consistent thing. And I had a buddy who was texting me last week during the game, and he was really ragging on Taylor for not catching one of those snaps. And that the one that Taylor didn't catch last week was one of the few that was like really on target. But I was like, well, the center QB exchange has just been a weird one overall, and it continues to be weird. But I do want to give Addison Nichols, a slight bit of props. So he didn't grade out like super well PFF, but he had an above positive, like 63.2 overall grade. He was charged with allowing 2 pressures, but I felt like he, for the most part, again, given the competition, given who he was facing, the familiarity there, I think he held up pretty well. And I feel like this Arkansas offensive line overall held up pretty well. I also challenged Keyshawn Blackstock, who I'm not going to go into full detail, but did not really accept the challenge. He wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as last week. He didn't allow 7 pressures. Arkansas still has a little bit of an issue at right tackle. We'll get into that more on tomorrow or in later today's show whenever we do our position grades. But Curtis, you had Danico Slaughter, or I don't know. Did you have? I did. You had Danico Slaughter. I had Blackstock, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Slaughter, I feel like, again, not a perfect performance, and it's kind of weird. I feel like Danico Slaughter has had like more stuff to evaluate than any Razorback defender all year. Like every game he's involved in like 13 plays. And it was a little bit of a mixed bag, but I thought he played pretty well for the most part. I thought he held up okay. He wasn't getting gashed in coverage or anything. PFF has him with an 82.6 tackle grade. He made that long touchdown saving tackle on Sampson on the 53-yard run, which ended up not really mattering because they scored a play later. But I was proud of the effort that Danico Slaughter put together. And he wasn't someone that Tennessee could bully, which I feel like if you're thinking about it, that's kind of what you're worried about. Tennessee couldn't bully any of Arkansas's defenders. There was no weak spot.
Yeah, for sure, man. I was pretty impressed with him overall. Tied for the team high with 8 tackles, 4 solo tackles, which, that's kind of been an issue for him. So he stepped up in that department, had a pass breakup. You mentioned him running down Sampson to save that touchdown, which wound up happening anyway. But it just, I think I said it on the postgame show last night, that play is a perfect microcosm of an Arkansas team that has not let go of the rope. If this team wasn't together or if they were in their feelings or whatever, Sampson breaks that one and he just walks into the end zone, man. But Slaughter wasn't having it, and that's a pride thing. And so I was really happy to see that from him. And then, one thing I was worried about coming into the game was with the way Tennessee spreads it out so much. They just stretched the entire field. You felt like he was going to be in coverage a lot. And it wasn't as much as maybe I thought it would be. But, you look at it on PFF, targeted 4 times, only allowed 2 receptions for 11 yards. I will take that all day long. So a nice job by Slaughter. He did not take the bait in the post game, which I was a little bit disappointed in when it was like, hey, you did this to your old team. How'd that feel? And he literally just said, I'm just feeding my family, man. It was just an opportunity for me to feed my family, feed my teammates, feed my boys' families. And, it felt good, but just get paid. It's exactly what he said. I was like, hell yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I love that.
It was pretty hilarious, man. It was just, he's an interesting character. Another one on the defense. We had 2 more defensively. I challenged Landon Jackson to double down, to start stacking games. I think he did that, man. I really do. If you look at the stats, 4 tackles, he did have a half sack in there and a QB hurry, but they were talking about him a lot, and he was disruptive. And Nico Iamaleava was uncomfortable, and a lot of the reason why was because of Landon Jackson. He's starting to be a more consistent game wrecker night in and night out, and that's what you love to see. I would absolutely say that he accepted the challenge. I haven't looked at his PFF grades, but just the eye test, buddy, he passed it, in my opinion.
Well, the PFF grade backs up what you felt about it. They graded him out. He was Arkansas's 2nd highest graded defender at 77.9. I could be wrong, Curtis. So he was charged with 7 pressures, one of which he got home for. 6 QB hurries aside from that. I could be wrong. I think 7 pressures is the most by a Razorback defender in a game this season, which tops the 6 that he had in the Auburn game, which weirdly enough, I don't believe he even had a sack in the Auburn game. But he did have 6 pressures then. But I thought, yes, very good performance from Landon Jackson. I mean, I'll look at it. I haven't seen the full grades, but I would imagine his season grade is creeping up there to where he's one of the higher graded edge rushers in the SEC. He is who he was advertised to be preseason. It's good to see him settle into the season. And man, I know everyone's still probably going to look at his yearly total, and he has like 2.5 sacks or whatever, and maybe be a little bit underwhelmed. But I feel like it's been about 4 weeks now where he's been playing really solid football and being the guy that Arkansas needs him to be. No notes. Great work from Landon Jackson.
Yeah,
and Hudson Clark, by the way, is our remaining challenge. Curtis, he accepted it. You asked him to play, he played, and he played 15 snaps. His PFF grade, by the way, where was it at? I was just looking at it. I lost 66.1, which isn't like going to blow anyone away. That's a positive one. It starts at 60. And his tackling grade 73.5. I guess they did not include him getting pile drove into the end zone.
He did get truck stick at the goal line. Yeah,
it happens. It happens. He was in a tough spot there. But also to Hudson Clark did not allow a reception in this game. Was not targeted in coverage. So great work from Hudson Clark. That's all we asked was him to play and be a leader and be out there.
Yeah, 15 snaps. That's about right. I'll accept that. And geez, I didn't realize that TJ Metcalf struggled the way he did. I was just looking at the grades to see what his counterpart did. Do we have a position battle brewing?
Oh, wow.
No, I'm just kidding. But no, kind of a rough day at the office for Metcalf on PFF. But yeah, good to see Hudson Clark back out there. Gives this team a little bit more depth, some more experience on the back end. That's never a bad thing. Let's get into our bold predictions and then get out of here. This was this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the show of, boy, we could have just absolutely nailed it. But Arkansas didn't do their part by losing the game. What the hell? Come on, guys. Help a brother out. No, I love it. But one of the first ones that I had was that Arkansas would lead this game at halftime. Check. But that Tennessee would win and cover. But boy, it was trending in that direction for a minute. When it got to 14-3, people started tweeting at me and sending me DMs like, wow, man, you knew. You're like a prophet in there. And I responded to every single one of them, said, well, I hope I'm wrong. On the last half of it, turns out that I was. So great, beautiful thing. I'll accept it.
Again, we kind of wrote the script for Arkansas, and we wrote a less favorable script than what actually played out. And look, us talking about it, the rest of the fan base kind of talking about it, of how this was a game that it's not like Arkansas. I mean, let's just say it. Arkansas was expected to lose. They were 14-point underdogs. Nobody also, if Arkansas had, like, especially when they got down 14-10 and Taylon's out of the game now, and all of a sudden things are in flux, there would have been no shame in losing at that point. And for Arkansas to just overcome every obstacle in their way and fight back against that narrative, the narrative that you don't win close games, the narrative that you're good enough to compete, but you're not good enough to win and beat SEC teams, they bucked all of that, man. And they sure showed you, Curtis. They sure showed you. But no, man, I really like, and again, it's not like you were wrong for feeling the way you felt. It seemed like it was about to play out that way, but man, it's just awesome. It's awesome to be surprised pleasantly, which really I feel like just isn't the case that often with this Arkansas Razorback football team.
Oh, no doubt about it, man. And the second challenge that I had was very similar. Is I just thought that Arkansas would beat all of Tennessee's averages and their rankings and then still lose the game. And they did exactly that. Like they scored almost 3 times as many points as Tennessee's averaging and allowing. Tennessee scoring 52 a game. They only got 14 in this one. It's Arkansas was up on yardage, both passing and rushing. They allowed less than Tennessee. It's every single one of these categories where you look at it for Tennessee and it's like they're number 1 in the country. They're number 2 in the country, whatever. I thought Arkansas would handle their business in all of those and still find a way to lose this game. And up until the 117 mark of the fourth quarter, that's exactly where this was headed. But shout out to them for finishing the job and getting it done there. So I will happily again take the half L on that one for getting the most important part right, which is the good thing for Arkansas, but then still thinking they were going to lose because I'm a glass half empty kind of guy. Let's see, what else do we have here? Andrew, you had Taylon Green, not 1, not 2, but 3 passing touchdowns going into this game. You know what? Whatever, man. He was awesome.
You know what he had, Curtis? Not 1, not 2, not 3. He had 0 passing touchdowns. And honestly, I'm just done. Arkansas, when they get in the red zone, they're not going to throw the ball into the end zone. Like once they get inside that 15, 10-yard line, they're just not throwing the ball. Hard to blame them, frankly. But yeah, I still don't think Arkansas's had a passing touchdown in the red zone. And I was kind of counting on the law of averages a little bit. And frankly, again, I thought Arkansas was going to lose the game. I had the score projected 38-21, which, by the way, by game day, I ended up betting on the under, which hit with, easy. By the time the game actually rolled around, I started realizing, I was like, it's not going to be that high scoring. I, again, didn't think Arkansas was going to win. But I was kind of thinking there would be some garbage time touchdowns involved there where like Tennessee goes up 17 and then Arkansas has a little touchdown late. This game was one where these teams could have played 12 quarters, and I don't think there would have been 3 passing touchdowns combined. It's just that kind of game. And so I'll take the L on that one. But I had been pretty good projecting Taylon's stats. Now, this next one that I didn't get right, I feel better about. I had Arkansas only allowing 1 sack. 1 or fewer is what I said. I left it open-ended. They ended up allowing 2 sacks, so I didn't get it right. But one of them came late on Malachi Singleton, and he almost got back to the line of scrimmage. You could almost, we get a different spot. Maybe it's a different thing. But I think that, like, in terms of the justification for it, I felt like Arkansas was going to be better equipped to deal with the fact that their offensive line can't hold up in obvious passing situations. And Curtis, I spoke about this right before we went live, actually, but PFF credited Arkansas's pass blocking. They said there were 17 snaps that were what they call true pass block sets. So no play action, no screen, no rollout, no nothing, just real pass block sets. And Arkansas allowed 9 pressures in those 17 situations, but Arkansas had 30 pass attempts. So, half of Arkansas's pass attempts, they were doing the stuff that we've been asking them to do. Rolling them out, creative, play action, screen game, good stuff. And I thought that was a huge key for Arkansas in this game. And credit to Bobby Patrino. He had a good plan to deal with the pressure of Tennessee, which is going to be one of the better pass rushes they'll face all year. Curtis, even when I was making this prediction, I don't know if I really believed it that much. Did you feel like Arkansas's O-line was going to hold up better against Tennessee's D-line than they did against UAB and Oklahoma State, who were down a defensive lineman? Like, it seems like this Arkansas, at least, and look, it's not like Arkansas overnight has an offensive line that's just out here, a brick wall. But I think this Arkansas offense, like we said, is getting a better understanding of who they are and what they have to do to win. And I feel like that was the key yesterday, as Arkansas offensively just knew what they were doing. They had answers to the problems that Tennessee presented. And so they didn't get that bold prediction correct, but I was proud of the effort. And now my next one, Curtis, this is a great call. Under 45 penalty yards for the Arkansas Razorbacks. They made me nervous late. 41 is what they finished with penalty yardage wise. I feel great about it. We feel like Arkansas's hit or miss, where like under Sam Pittman, there's no real rhyme or reason. They either commit 12 penalties or they commit 3. It's kind of no in between. I was kind of hoping they were coming off of a bad penalty performance. I was hoping it would flip the other way. Now let's, fingers crossed, hope for the Texans, who committed 14 penalties last week, cannot do it today. But Arkansas, 6 penalties, 41 yards. When you're in Tennessee, had 10 for 60. I thought that mattered in the game. And Sam Pittman spoke about that in his press conference, saying, hey, the crowd helped get some of those false starts going. That's a big deal. I actually thought the gap would be a little bit bigger. I thought Tennessee would commit more penalties. But I thought, when you're playing a game low scoring like this, 20 penalty yards is nothing to scoff at. And I thought that was a real difference in the game. And credits Arkansas for making me look somewhat smart.
Hey, no doubt about it, man. And the last thing I threw out there just at the very end, because I remember when we were recording the pregame that I had a couple thoughts about, let's see Hudson Clark get some snaps in there. But you had mentioned him in a challenge. And then Rashad Deion was also on my list coming off of that suspension. Just the way Sam Pittman talked about him in his press conference on Monday made me think, yeah, he's trying to really make a point. Like, hey, this dude's not in trouble. This is over. He's on the other side of this suspension. You knew Rodney Hill was out, so I thought there would be an opportunity there for him to play some snaps. Well, he played 5, but damn it, he made the most of them. You got to admit that. He got some early carries in there on that first drive. Him and Luke Has were cited, so we were thinking, whoa, who is this team? We haven't seen them all year. But yeah, 2 carries for 10 yards for Deion, and then he had the reception. Yeah, an 18-yard reception a little bit later. So shout out to R-Dub for getting involved in there, man. 3 touches, 28 yards. Great. He's on his way to regaining the Heisman campaign. Just coming soon for Rashad Deion. So no, that was good. Good to see him back out there. And I thought he looked fresh, which I guess he was, but looked fast, looked a little explosive in there. He wasn't doing the east-west thing, which would have been very easy for him to do against a Tennessee defensive front. So we'll see if it turns into more opportunities for him, especially with Hill banged up right now. When you have Jackson and Braylon Russell, Dubinion's a real nice change of pace back there. So we'll see. But that pretty much wraps it up. And we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to get out of here because we're going to post this and we're going to start another one and do our report card. But this has been a lot of fun. And I know there are a lot of Razorback fans who are out there who were in similar boats, and you could see it all over social media and the comments. We even had in our post-game show in the chat a comment before we even started that was, I don't want to hear anything about putting Singleton in the game again. The Hogs are terrible. You know, just it's the battered hog syndrome thing. We get it. But we can all hold ourselves accountable. There's nothing wrong with that, especially when it comes in a Razorback win. If you were pessimistic, you had every reason to be, given what we've seen. Arkansas wins this game. Man, pat yourself on the back, puff your chest out, feel happy about it. We're doing it, and we're going to do it for 2 freaking weeks up until this LSU game.
Absolutely.
But we're going to get out of here, and we'll be back with you guys a little bit later. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, do all the things. Like, subscribe, podcast form, YouTube, wherever you need to do that. Make sure you take care of. Check out our website, InsideArkansas.com. We got plenty of written content over there. So for Andrew Ellis, this has been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas and the Pod of That Nature, and we will see you guys soon.